You will start recording.
Just read. You can start by reading the 7 realities.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. The 7 realities: existence, love, sacrifice, renunciation, knowledge, control, and surrender. I give no importance to creed, dogma, caste, or the performance of religious ceremonies and rites, but to the understanding of the following. 1. The only real existence is that of the one and only God, who is the self in every finite self. 2. The only real love is the love for this infinity God, which arouses an intense longing to see, know, and become one with its truth, God. 3. The only real sacrifice is that in which, in pursuance of this love, all things, body, mind, position, welfare, and even life itself are sacrificed. 4. The only real renunciation is that which abandons, even in the midst of worldly duties, all selfish thoughts and desires. 5. The only real knowledge is the knowledge that God is the inner dweller in good people and in so-called bad, in saint and in so-called sinner. This knowledge requires you to help all equally as circumstances demand, without expectation of reward. When compelled to take part in a dispute, to act without the slightest trace of enmity or hatred, try to make others happy with brotherly or sisterly feeling for each one, and to harm no one in thought, word, or deed, not even those who harm you. 6. The only real control is the discipline of senses to abstain from indulgence in low desires, which alone ensures absolute purity of character. 7. The only real surrender is that in which poise is undisturbed by any adverse circumstance, and the individual amidst every kind of hardship is resigned with perfect calm to the will of God. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai.
Thank you. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you.
Welcome.
So, what is the Amartiti plan is what I heard was being discussed briefly. I was in a rush trying to do the other things. So, neither of you are sure, looks like. Nor am I.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but so to continue back on our journey, we are reading Sobs and Throbs this Saturday. I thought we will listen to that Kabir Ka Doha, which is where we are from a continuation standpoint. So maybe we can start with that 1 second. If you remember, we were on page 65 on the physical book, I mean the digital book, and this was what we were reading. We will read the meaning again, but before that, let's listen to it in the way it's played out. I think I have to stop sharing and share again to get the audio. 1 second. Please confirm if you hear the audio.
चलती चक्की देख के दिया कबीरा रोए, दो पाटन के बीच में साबुत बचाना कोई कबीरा, साबुत बचाना कोई। कबीरदास जी कहते हैं कि जिस प्रकार चक्की में दोनों पत्थरों के बीच में गेहूं आटा बन जाता है, ठीक उसी प्रकार मनुष्य जीवन की भौतिक वस्तुओं के पीछे, लोभ मोह माया के पीछे भटकता रहता है और कहीं ना कहीं आध्यात्मिक भूल जाता है, ईश्वर को भूल जाता है। उसे स्मरण रखना है कि अंतिम समय में तो वही काम आना है, परमात्मा से प्रीत लगाना है और जीवन सार्थक करना है। हेलो, नमस्कार।
Yeah. Was that audible?
Yes.
Yes.
It It was very apt. Thank
Good,
you.
good. Correct. So we just read the meaning that Abdullah is mentioning here. So
You
Kabir
are
is
on
weeping at the
record
sight of the
or?
grind. Yeah, I'm recording. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah. Kabir is weeping at the sight of the grinding mill of the world, which is going on merrily, since none, of course, excepting those lucky few who stick to the central pin. And the central pin is equated to Kutub, Sadguru, or Adept of the age, remains safe between its two eternally moving rollers of life and death. So I'm not sure if the meaning that was played out in the YouTube short is as clear and as relevant like what we see here. So here the meaning is the best grind happens far away from the pin or
Yes.
the pillar in the middle. Once you're closer to the pillar, your efficiency of grinding is lower. By the way, I've never used this kind of a chakki. I've used the usual ones that we see in South India, which are there's a pit and there is a grinding stone. So you just roll the stone. I mean, move the stone around. I've operated it as well, but I don't think I have seen this in action. Any one of you seen it?
I've seen it. We used to have it at home in our Sikra, I think.
Oh, okay. So it's for dry grinding only, right?
Yeah, this is dry. You're right, Karthik. This is only for dry grinding, and you put the wheat or whatever you want to grind from top, and it's done in the middle. That's what they're saying, that we are all stuck in the middle between reality and duality.
Middle, use the word carefully because middle is where the pin also is. So
Yes,
between is better. Between
yes,
between
you
is where the
are.
grinding happens.
Between is better, but yes, correct.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
No, that the bottom stone has a pillar in the center, and on top of it, the top stone is put with a hole so that the pin comes up. So between the pin and the stone, there is a cavity where we add the SS. This one.
Third one. That's right.
We add the
Okay, so the
grains.
pillar is on the side as well sometimes.
This is the pin which holds the other top one also. So we put the grain into that hole.
Middle.
That is, we start with the center. We start as God, and then go to the periphery in the world, and then get stuck there and get ground. But those who stay in the center, near the pin, they don't get ground. So you, after the grinding, usually when we remove the top stone, there will be a few grains which are not touched at all. So that is the thing.
Analogy.
So that I have seen there. So they remove that separately from the ground powder.
Okay. Nice. See, the analogies are spot on. And I think, I mean, of course, Kabir is, as confirmed by Baba, a perfect master. So he is right up there when it comes to messaging and quality of the message. So I'm glad we did this little deviation to explore this.
Yes.
So let's continue. So you have used it too, Ashok?
Yeah, it was. I've seen it in my grandparents, and when I said middle, I meant between the two colors.
I know. That's why I corrected or helped you with a better word.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's a very common man analogy. So
absolutely. Common man's olden days analogies. So the young of today don't even know all of this. Like my son, I don't think he's seen even the other Rolling Stone.
No, I've seen this. And we can be like the Rolling Stones.
Yeah. If Kama was there, of course, Rolling Stones means a different thing to him.
Oh, yes. Context and
let's start. Yes. let's continue reading. Any one of you wants to start, or shall I read for some time?
I will read for some time, just.
Please, Jai Baba.
Okay, Jai Baba. The master did not retire for the rest throughout that night and continued weeping silently for a long time. And now I will show how this incident affected our hero. Along with a few others of the kind, Ali remained by the master till about midnight, weeping for the last comrade. When the master asked them all to go to sleep, all, including the hero, obeyed the command and retired to their respective beddings. But for all his efforts, Ali could not sleep that night. As if haunted by a nightmare, he was found very restless and tossing himself to and fro on his bed. At 2 o'clock in the morning, the night watchman could not help reporting his condition to the master, and who at once instructed Mr. Afsari to go and ask the boy to stop worrying about and sleep soundly. But Ali's prophetic reply simply took Afsari's breath away. The boy seemed to be in a trance, and on hearing the message, exclaimed, "What strange scenes do I see? What strange sounds do I hear? Oh, it is all the din and dust of the city life." And in spite of repeating attempts, Ali could not at all sleep that night. Somehow the boy began to feel his own stay in the ashram in jeopardy, and many shared with him this thought. In spite of his father's recent letter, all felt now that where these Mughals were concerned, promises and arguments were but mere scrap of paper, and remembered the master's early words. The Mughals are word breakers and not to be trusted. The following day, the 18th February, was the master's 34th birthday, but in spite of the usual celebrations, it was felt to be very gloomy and dull in comparison with previous records. The master began to remain very reserved and preoccupied. His attitude towards the selected boys was also changed, and they were begun to be kept at arm's length. Did he cease loving them? Certainly not. On the contrary, His Holiness showed no less concern for them than before, as is clearly apparent from the following incident. On the 19th February, when someone chanced to utter the name of Ali, chanced to utter the name of Ali in the presence of Master, he at once conveyed through signs, "Oh, why do you remind me about him? Now that his name has reached my ear, better call him here." The moment Ali received the call, for which he was perhaps eagerly waiting at that time, he came scampering towards the master and simply fell into his arms. The master sent him away after giving him a hugging embrace, and as if nothing had happened, resumed the discussion that was going on before Ali's name had crept in it. The 20th February witnessed a great consternation at Meherabad. Mr. N.C. Talati, one of the master's disciples in Bombay, wired that day that Ali's father wanted him back. Enough, the devilry had reached its zenith. I will not detain the reader with the details of all the excitement, conferences and confabulations that took place between the master and the disciples, and amongst the latter themselves about this reported breach of promise on the part of Ali's father. But the most important point in the master's declaration was this: if Ali goes, everything goes. I will come out of the confinement and break up the whole institution. How very strange. Just for the sake of a single boy, the whole of this ideal institution was to go to the dogs. And the disciples had sufficient experience of the master's workings to believe that he meant every word he said. To break an institution, if it serves the purpose, is not stranger than Swami Vivekananda's remark as to dying a million deaths if there be. Thereby he could serve one individual.
Remarkable statement
to break an institution, it serves the purpose. It is not stranger than Swami Vivekananda's remark as to dying a million deaths if there be, he could serve one individual.
I think the reference here is even if 100 institutions or million institutions are created and destroyed when they meet their purpose. It serves its purpose. It's okay. But there are quite a few unusual things that I noticed that Baba is doing here. One is rarely will you see such a strong negative statement from Baba. These Mughals are word breakers and not to be trusted. Now, this he has said in the context of agreements. If you see in the earlier line here, in spite of his father's recent letter, all felt now that where these Mughals were concerned, promises and agreements were but mere scraps of paper. And if you remember, Baba took a lot of pain to ensure that contracts were signed by these people. Contracts were reiterated by these people, if you notice in the last chapter, where they were asked to confirm again in writing, in fact, in person, I think, to come back and sign, that they are comfortable and they want to continue here. So obviously he was doing something very deep and profound, but also personally quite unusual. Personally for me, quite unusual stuff. Strong statements coming from him. Yeah. So we'll continue from here.
However, two of the disciples offered to go to Bombay and try to bring Mr. Haji Muhammad around, and the master allowed them to do so. The following day, the 21st of February, a telegram was received from this pair from Bombay, successful. That one word, successful, serves the purpose of this narrative. And in fact, it was the only word that gave relief to many an aching heart. But this relief was greatly marred by the black clouds that once again appeared at Meherabad in the shape of some more Mughal parents with their typically black turbans the very next day. They sang the same song, "We want to take away our boys." But unlike Muhammad Hussein's brother, they talked some sense. Their only objection was that they feared the boys here will lose their religion. Besides explanations and arguments, the authorities under the master's command offered one of them, who seemed to be an educated and religious Sayyid, to become the mullah of the Meher Ashram and teach the Mohammedan boys of the institution the ritualistic side of Islam, and that as a compensation, he will be paid rupees 150 per month, which he earned elsewhere. What more could one desire as a proof of the institution's or its founders' bona fides in the matter of the alleged attempt at spoiling their hereditary faith? In spite of it, although they were greatly impressed with all the arguments, they took away 3 more boys from the institution. But the matters did not stop here. Just another day.
I can pause you for a minute. I can pause you for a minute, I observed something that I wanted to share. So we're talking about these Mughals, and we are not sure if Mughals are just another word for Muslims, but I don't think it is. So if you look at something, look at this phrase here. Some more Mughal parents with their typically black turbans. So I think it's a subset of Muslims, and they typically wear black turbans. So maybe is this Bohri Muslims whom he's calling as Mughal? But that's unlikely because Bohri Muslims are from are largely in Gujarat. So that way, the association with Baba seems natural. But Bohri Muslims won't be called Mughal easily. Mughals are more the Central Asian descent, right? Whereas Bohris trace their history back to Africa. So, and they moved to Gujarat. So this is a good piece of research that we need to do as to who are this subset that Baba is dealing with here.
No, actually, that word initially started as those parents who are opposing are in doubt of what is happening in the ashram. And then they had two minds in keeping the boys there or to take them away. And then now it is turning out to be Muslims or one sect of Muslims who are gradually getting out of this place.
Yeah, it looks like predominantly in the Muslim community, it was only these Mughals that came to the school. So that's what it looks like. I mean, I may be wrong. Contextually, you're right. Yeah, that's where it started, the first references. Yeah.
But the matter does not stop here. Where was I? Just another day and lo, it was Ali's turn to get some shocks. On the 23rd of February, the business partner of Ali's father came to Meher early that morning to take him. However, this gentleman proved himself a rational being. He admitted having heard undesirable rumors and demanded explanations thereof. He gave a patient hearing to all that was explained to him and verified all the statements of the authorities through personal inspection of the Meher Ashram during his stay that day and declared himself fully satisfied. He did not only leave Ali alone, but also enlisted the two boys that were with him to the care of the ashram authorities, besides promising to persuade his partner, the father of Ali, to let Ali remain here. Yet, after all that, the worst did happen in a dramatic way within 2 days of this episode and forms the subject matter of the next chapter.
The devil continues.
Yeah.
We go to chapter 9.
Snatched away.
Yeah. You want to rotate reading? Yeah.
Yes. You can start.
You want to read? Yeah, or I'll read that.
You'll have to slightly reduce the span.
Yeah, I'm doing that, yeah. Some way.
Reduce it a little more, yeah.
Okay. Chapter 9, Snatched Away, is the topic. Let's continue. Hi, Ashish, Jai Baba. It was expected and yet unexpected. But all the same, as already said in conclusion of the last chapter, the worst did come to pass. Ali was snatched away. But let me narrate the dramatic details of the situation in full so as to convey to the reader a further idea of the noteworthy traits in the character of the hero, which show him head and shoulder above the other boys of the ashram. It was on Saturday, the 25th of February 1928, at about 7:30 in the morning, that the ashram authorities got the surprise of their lives. The arrival of Ali's father was announced. In view of his partner's departure on the preceding day with a good impression and a promise to persuade him, he was at least not expected to turn up so soon. But as it was, they had crossed each other while journeying to and from Bombay, and thus, unhappily, Mr. Haji Muhammad missed the intended good opinion of his rational partner about the Meher Ashram. However, the gentleman was at once conducted to the ashram and was shown round the new school premises and given some unsolicited explanation about the alleged rumors. He did not seem to be in an agitated frame of mind like Muhammad Hussein's brother, but looked equally determined to carry away the hero. The authorities succeeded in persuading him to take some rest in view of the overnight journey before entering into the heart of the burning question of that day. Thus, when he got refreshed with a few hours of sleep and had some food, negotiations were opened with him at noon. Mr. Afseri was the chief speaker on behalf of the Meher Ashram, and he argued the case well. The discussions went on for nearly 4 hours. The offer for a mullah for the religious training of the Mughal boys in the ashram was repeated, with the additional liberty of the selection of a mullah being made by the gentleman himself. He was also offered every help and compensation to shift the avenue of his business to or start a new one at Ahmednagar if he would like to do so. To facilitate his visiting the institution from time to time to see that all went well with his son. By 4 o'clock, the devil was on the point of being defeated, as the gentleman seemed at last to have been brought around, and Mr. Afseri went to draft the bond for his signature. But what did he find when he returned? Another Mughal gentleman was present there with Ali's father. The former had perhaps come to Ahmednagar by the afternoon train, and just as Mr. Afseri had gone to fetch the fateful bond, he had joined Ali's father. The newcomer, in the absence of the explanations from the authorities, was naturally very prejudiced and no less determined in taking away his own boys from the institution than Ali's father was in the morning. They had enough time to discuss the matter amongst themselves, and so no wonder that Mr. Afseri felt his heart missing some beats at this unexpected sight. And his fears proved only too true. Ali's father had fallen a victim to hearsay again. Taking his courage in both hands, Mr. Afseri, although he had already talked enough for 4 hours, once again tried to meet squarely the opponent who unfortunately seemed to have greatly prejudged the issues. The atmosphere had by now become very tense with excitement. Many of the master's disciples began to saunter about the room in which this fateful conference was going on, throwing sly glances at the occupants as if to read their intentions. Hopeless and hopeful were the only two words that played about the lips of almost all of those who could manage to pick up a word or a sign now and then. It was nearly sunset when negotiations with the stubborn Mughals were broken off. The devil had triumphed. The boys, including the hero, were to be taken away. Of all the actors in this exciting drama, Mr. Afseri was the most deeply affected. How sincerely he had tried to knock sense into the prejudiced Mughals could be seen from the fact that at the end of the parley, he went into a swoon and remained unconscious for some time. His troubles were well rewarded with that expressive sentence that the master later on conveyed. None has worked harder than him, in brackets Afseri, in the cause of truth. While describing his characteristics, I've said that Ali was not sentimental and that he had the least element of show about him in all his words and actions. No better proof of this fine trait could be cited than the way he behaved himself on this troublesome day. Unlike other boys who would cry and did cry under such circumstances, Ali managed to hide his volcanic feelings behind his unruffled face, which all could see was as calm as a millpond. Lest one may ascribe this to despondency or lack of sufficient feelings, I will show how really desperate he was. In the afternoon, when Mr. Afseri had chanced to come to the ashram office for the bond, he had encountered Ali on the way. He cannot say to this date what made him ask the boy, "What have you got in your pocket, Ali?" Save that it was a silent command from the all-watching master. Mr. Afseri, since he did not know why he asked the question, was of course unprepared for the startling reply and action of the boy. Ali simply dived his hand in one of his coat pockets and brought out an innocent penknife. Afseri was on the point of walking off, but the question had gone directly home. Ali could not help blurting out, "This is the final argument that I have reserved to take recourse to while talking out the question of my stay with my father." "Oh God, am I dreaming?" thought the bewildered gentleman. What iron determination and how keen a desperation this boy of 15 summers had nurtured. The matter was at once reported to the master, who, in anticipation of the unfavorable decision then, strictly enjoined upon Ali never even to think of violence of any kind against anyone, including his own self. Since implicit obedience to the master's command is his watchword, this order of the master has proved more than enough to restrain Ali to this date from such extreme steps like the one he had under contemplation that afternoon. Besides the order, the master also gave him this promise: "If you're taken away, I will either come out of my confinement or break up the institution." It was dusk when Ali was conducted down to his father. The poor boy was dumb with grief, yet there was neither a tear nor a twinge about his apparently placid features. Still, those who had an inkling of his kindling heart could not miss the glassy look about his eyes. A surging storm was being bravely checked in them. Without creating a scene or offering a clumsy and ineffective resistance, Ali silently obeyed his father's commands and was soon whisked off in a tonga. Many pairs of glistening eyes remained glued to the gradually disappearing twinkle of the vehicle's rear light as long as it could be seen. Gone. The leader of the little lovers was at last lifted away. There were many hearts that throbbed and many souls that sobbed that night at Meherabad. To say the atmosphere became dark and deserted or grim and gloomy is still like begging for a better description of the awful state of affairs at Meherabad. After the hero's departure, it was for the first time that the master inquired as to how many days had passed since he had confined himself and left off eating. True to his promise to Ali, the master had already begun to think of coming out. Did it also mean the closing of the ideal institution? There was no end to the conjectures made by many of the disciples, but none could foresee what was to happen the following day from the remarks conveyed by the master. Here is a short gist of his silent signaling. "I have gone very weak. I will come out and commence eating. The purpose has not been served. Ali is not in loss in the least, but I. It will all have to be done afresh." But the most significant words conveyed by the master were, "None should touch my person for 10 days under any circumstances, unless specifically ordered otherwise. Now, let us turn to our hero for a while. Before reaching the railway station, Ali tried twice to effect an escape through the ingenious tricks of asking the Tonga to be stopped on one pretext or the other. Once he actually managed to go in an adjoining field, but his guardians were no less watchful, and the boy did not succeed in getting free from their grips. At the station, just as the train was about to move, Ali tried again. Quite unconcernedly, he slipped out of the carriage and, as if to help his father's companion, who had remained behind, into the compartment, Ali tried to put him off his guard. But that shrewd gentleman was not to be caught napping. Perhaps he guessed Ali's intentions, and just as the train began to move on, he was careful enough in gently pushing Ali into the carriage before he got in himself. The railway line, at about the 3rd mile from the Ahmednagar station towards Pune, passed through the very heart of Mehrabad, where the colony was situated at the time. Perhaps it was due to the near approach of the object of his heart, or that there was no longer any chance left in him of an immediate escape, that as the train began to gather speed, Ali found the curbing of his emotions becoming too much for him. Yet, to avoid an open outburst, the hero leaned out of the carriage window to give free vent to his sobs and throbs in order to drown them amidst the noise of the fast-moving train. And lo, in a brilliant halo of lustre, he began to behold the master. What far-reaching power! Without a touch, glance, or even close proximity, the master was able to give this sight to Ali as a parting gift of love from him. And this proved a very effective consolation to Ali in his hours of trial, since, in the boy's own words, which he conveyed later on, this sight used to help him much in checking a complete breakdown whenever he felt like weeping out his heart during this painful separation. Okay, this is the next chapter. So it's gloomy because the boy is left, and let's see what is the surprise in store from a decision standpoint. Looks like Baba is going to get out of seclusion, but what else he does with it is what is going to be seen in the coming chapter. Ashok, you want to read one chapter?
Yeah, okay.
Chapter 10, 6 days of separation. Jai Baba.
Chapter 10, a new chapter, 6 days of separation. The first day, the overnight atmosphere of gloom and distraction continued throughout the day. The master began conveying remarks about coming out of his long confinement and commencing to take food since the very morning. During one of the many discussions held between the master and the disciples and amongst themselves about Ali, two of them made a bold offer to approach Ali's father in spite of all the happenings and try again to bring him around. The master gave in his consent and allowed the pair 7 days of grace in which to arrive at a final conclusion. Accordingly, the two gentlemen left for Bombay in the afternoon. In all the 6 years of my close contact with the master, I have often marked a great peculiarity about his actions and words. But the one witnessed this day, I dare say, would beat them all. On the one hand, His Holiness continued instructing the authorities concerned in continuing all activities as usual, as nothing untoward had happened. Nay, he even sanctioned many costly alterations and additions to be made to the existing premises of the ashram and school by way of improvements, and asked the authorities to make fresh purchases and involve themselves in various commitments in this connection. While in the same breath, on the other hand, he ordered another group of his disciples for the close-up of the institution, lock, stock, and barrel. Thus, the contrary working of these two groups began to come into operation simultaneously from this day to the great bewilderment of the rest. And this state of affairs continued for the following 5 days when both sides were ready for the faithful final command to be issued at the expiry of the 7 days of grace. It was exactly 45 minutes past 5 that the master at last stepped out of his confinement after 107 days of rigid imprisonment. But for the black clouds of Ali's going away, the master's coming out amongst them no doubt could have been a direct outburst of glorious sunshine for the boys and disciples. Still, there was lack of enthusiasm. The master was soon conducted down the hill on which the Meher Ashram was then situated to Meherabad proper in a gaily decorated rickshaw. One of the master's seats at Meherabad Arangaon is situated along the public road under a neem tree in the shape of a huge box-like wooden room near the sacred fireplace called Dhuni, which is a small round pit generally maintained about the seats of Hindu and Muslim saints alike, although its maintenance alone does not imply one of being a genuine saint. This particular dhuni was always fed with round logs that generally smoldered and were never likely to give out a flame even when violently disturbed by a foreign agency. Just as the master's rickshaw passed the dhuni on this particular day, it suddenly burst into a distant flame. I remember having particularly witnessed this extraordinary phenomena as I chanced to look at it just at the right moment. Many others also remember having seen it. It was no one close to it just then, and the moment the rickshaw passed onward, that peculiar outburst died down immediately, leaving no traces of any chemical disturbance. It was found smoldering as usual, giving out an almost imperceptible smoke. I have not gone into the details of this incident merely for its being a rare phenomenon, but because it has a direct bearing on the main issue of this chapter, as will be seen from the following facts. After passing a few minutes here and there, inquiring of the various disciplines as to how they were faring, the master retraced his steps and for the first time, going around the dhuni, sat down oppositely to it quietly for about 15 minutes. Just before getting up from there, he was pleased to enlighten the disciples with a very suggestive hint. The dhuni has just conveyed to me a message. Continue and go on with the work. Although, as mentioned, the dual workings of making and unmaking of the institution had continued for 5 days, that hint was sufficient for many of the disciples to take it for granted that the institution for the present had passed the danger zone and would be continued. A telegram was received from the pair who had undertaken to achieve the impossible and had gone to Bombay the other day. It contained a single word, hopes, which gave a happy surprise to those who heard it. The second day, the master was indisposed throughout the day, but towards the evening he was marked to be very restless. For a few minutes he would retire into the lower crypt-like chamber only to come out again. Going down, coming up, standing, sitting, sleeping, reclining, and in fact every minute changing his position and pose, the master kept on conveying through feeble signs that he was dying. His Holiness looked His Holiness looked every inch a man breathing his last. By sunset, there was a peculiar vacant look in his half-closed eyes, and his hands and feet were cold and almost limp and lifeless. The third day, another telegram was received from Bombay as follows. Ali, much distracted. Sayyid, his father, angry. Community against. The previous message of hope was thus shattered, and with many castles in the air, built by the enthusiastic disciples tottered down. But in the case of the master, it was quite the contrary. He was found to be in a very pleasant mood and even went to the length of allowing his little lovers to dress him as Sri Krishna. The master also considered the request and sat for a snapshot with the fantastic dress on. The fourth day, whatever little hope that had still flickered in some of the most optimistic hearts about the return of the hero was extinguished on the seat of the telegram. Seen Sayyid, boy not sent, starting tomorrow night. The fifth day, the boy's post brought a plainly addressed envelope for Mr. Kaikushru Afsari. It contained a few touching lines from the hero. It was written in Persian and is preserved to this date as a treasure by Mr. Afsari. The following is a free translation of the same. O Meher Baba, in the service of Aga Kaikushru Aspandyar, I beg to tell you that since the day they carried me away, I am in a sad mood and feeling desolate and dejected. On the night that I sat in the train, I was seeing Baba amidst a halo of luster. And throughout that night, whenever I felt like weeping, his sight helped me to maintain my composure. In the morning, we arrived at Bombay. They carried me to a bath and applied henna to my humble hands, which were always kissed by Baba. I wept at the time, but they applied the henna on my hands forcibly. Then to this date, I cannot eat my food. At night too, I cannot sleep before 12 or 2 o'clock. Tell Hazrat Baba, I will come after 4 days. In awake state, I always see Baba. Also while sleeping, I see Baba in a halo of light. Oh Kaikeshwaru, may I give my life for you? We enjoy the Meher Ashram atmosphere on my behalf. Come to hell of a poor soul, a wretched creature in the eyes of all in the world. By God, I had 2 rupees. I would have come to Pune at least to be nearer to Baba. Read these lines to Baba. Kankaro e arsh e barin je dost. Khana e hak manzil o mawa e dost. Alami aznur e roshan sude. Sarve gulistan kade bala e dost. Dast behar murde zadi zine jud. In hame haz ruhe mazye e dost. That is, the apex of the highest heaven is your abode. The home of truth is your resting place. The world is illumined by your divine light. Your erect and graceful stature is like the garden's cypress. With a touch of your hand, the dead would have been restored to life.
Hey, we have Mahu. Maybe she can read it better.
Yes,
Mahu, you want to try the Persian?
Yes.
I just noticed
Sure,
you
sure.
connected.
Yeah,
and then
sure.
she can
I'm
continue
sorry
if you
for
like.
being late. From where do you want me to? By God?
No, this
Where?
one. The Persian text, Kangora.
Oh. Hold on.
Sure.
I think this is Urdu.
Oh,
Urdu.
not Persian. The
Not
way it
Persian.
ends.
I mean,
The way it
wait.
ends. The way it ends, it looks like Persian, not Urdu.
Yeah, it has a rhyme. So let me try.
Sure.
Kangora, Kangaro, Arshe, Barin, Joy toast. This is Irani, but this is Persian. Yeah, Joy toast. But the old Persian. That's why I couldn't recognize it. خانه حق منزل و ما و تو است. عالمی از نور تو روشن شده. سرو گلستان کاده بالای توست دست بر هر مرده زدی دست به هر مرده زدی زنده شد این همه از روح مسیحای توست. I think is there a translation?
Translation. Yes, yes.
Wow, what the translation. It's very sophisticated translation.
Yeah. The apex of the highest heaven is your abode. The home of truth is your resting place. The world is illumined by your divine light. Your erect and graceful stature is like the garden cypress. With a touch of your hand, the dead have been restored to life. So I think this is Murde is dead, right? The dead have been coming to life. Murde Zadi Zinde, I think. And yeah. Masiha is something like a prophet or something like that. Is that what it means? Because that's also in Urdu.
Masiha means the savior.
Masiha, okay. That's Urdu. So I'm just checking what it is in Persian. Okay. Oh, there it is. This is because of the power of Masihai, resuscitation you have. And then you continue in some more Persian. Zetab e atish e sauda o ishkat. Besan e deig dayam mi zanam josh. Agar buside gardad ustu kaunam. Na gardad mehrat az janam faramush. From the heat of the fire of your love, I am ever boiling like a pot of water. Even if my bones decay, your love will never be effaced from my soul.
This is very
Wonderful.
beautiful.
So very beautiful.
Who has written this poetry?
So you joined a bit late. So what?
Yeah.
So sure. So Ali was taken away by his father after a lot of contemplations between him and a few others. Finally, Ali left, and this is the first message that he's writing to Khaikushru Afseri with a request to read out these two poems to Baba. So that's the context of this message. So this is coming straight from Ali.
Wow. So Ali has written this poetry? My God.
I don't think so. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he's quoting some poetry or maybe he's written. Yeah. No, because he's 15. So I'm not sure if he's writing this or quoting this. It could be either.
Yeah, I think I know where it might be coming from because it used the word Golestan. So yeah, it can't be his. This is too sophisticated for a 15-year-old. So perhaps he's coding, as you said. Yeah. Sadly,
and he's also talking of garden cypress. He's talking about garden cypress. So yeah. Anyway, it looks like he's quoting.
Cyprus is Shiraz. Yeah. So I know where it's coming from, but that's wonderful.
Oh, Cyprus is Shiraz, is it?
It's very known for being most of the Hafiz and Sadi, the Shirazi poets, they use Cyprus in their poetry quite often. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm not, this is the first time I'm encountering that in the poetry, but interesting. Yeah. Thank you for letting us know. Okay, great. So let's continue. Yeah, continue, Ashok. Yeah. Thank you.
The sixth day, the unsuccessful pair from Bombay had returned to Meherabad this morning, dejected and defeated. In spite of their best attempts and persuasions, they reported that not only Ali's father, but many other prominent members of his community also opposed Ali's return. And the boy's return was impossible. Throughout the day, the master looked all absorbed in the thoughts of the hero, and even when
Actually, I'm sorry, the reader, whomever it is, you are reading it too fast.
I'm sorry.
Can you slow down, please? Because
Yes,
we want to
yes.
absorb what's going on, or at least
Yes.
my mind works very slow.
No, it's
Sorry
okay.
about that.
I'll read again and I'll read slow.
You want to start again from the 6th day?
Yeah, I will start from the 6th day again. I'll try to read it slowly. Yes. The 6th day. The unsuccessful pair from Bombay had returned to Meherabad this morning, dejected and defeated. In spite of their best attempts and persuasions, they reported that not only Ali's father, but many other prominent members of his community also opposed Ali's return, and the boy's return was impossible. Throughout the day, the master looked all absorbed in the thoughts of the hero, and even when the principal of the school approached him for certain instructions, the latter got a curt reply, "Do as you like." It was the last day of the 7 days of grace. Ali must return on the following day, or the whole of the institution would cease to exist. The group of workers in charge of the unmaking department got the tools for the wholesale demolition ready. The majority of the disciples did not even dare think of the morrow. All had failed. Will the master do it himself? But before I reply this question in the following two chapters, I would just give a fresh example of the master's peculiar actions witnessed this evening, and perhaps some readers may make them out after reading. About what happened the same moment in Bombay.
Please read the title. Oh, it's continuing.
Yeah, it's just a page title. Yeah.
Is the page title is the chapter 6 Days of Separation.
Okay, sure.
And the context is that Ali has been taken away by his father.
I believe this is the first time. This is the first time. Okay, go ahead, please. There's been several times.
Okay. To the great bewilderment of all, the master instructed one of the two disciples that had just returned from Bombay to go there again, and in the face of all the reported fierce antagonism, to try once more to bring round Ali's father. This was very peculiar, in as much as there was not a single individual who could see any possibility of success. Even the gentleman concerned could see no chance of any good coming out of this move. But merely for the sake of obeying the master's command, he left Meherabad in the evening to catch the night train to Bombay. At about 9:30 at night, quite contrary to his usual practice of retiring to his seat, the master suddenly walked up to the school premises, went into the classroom which Ali used to attend, and sat over the very seat that the hero occupied when he was there. The master remained seated there for about 15 minutes in a very contemplative mood. Mr. Afzari, who was near the master, says that he could not help feeling at the same time, although bodily the master was there, internally he was elsewhere. A sort of vacancy about the. Can you raise the page, please, Karthik? Karthik, you have to just raise the page.
Karthik is. Yes. Please move the page.
Yeah. One second. Sorry.
Yeah. I got disconnected suddenly for a second. So I hope you read the last line.
Yeah, I just read. I'll have to read the last line. 1 second.
Yeah.
A sort of vacancy about the master's eyes during these few minutes was unmistakable.
Hmm.
This is a
So
great.
again,
What
gloomy.
does it mean by vacancy about master's eyes? I didn't quite. Can you roll it up, please? I didn't quite get what he's trying. A sort of vacancy about the master's eyes during these few minutes was unmistakable. Vacancy.
I think he's talking about the emptiness in the eyes.
Perhaps.
Yeah, because if you notice in the page above, where was this? There was a very strong usage, right? Yeah, look at this. His Holiness looked every inch a man breathing his last. By sunset, there was a peculiar vacant look in his half-closed eyes. This is the second day. And his hands and feet were cold and almost limp and lifeless. This is Baba. He's talking about Baba.
Wow.
And this is the second day. Yeah, so it's very strong words used here to describe the state Baba was in, right? And then, of course, he's very disappointed. Baba.
We can talk about it later.
That's that. Sure. Yeah. No, we can talk about it now if there's anything else before we go to the next chapter. The next chapter is day 7. Yeah.
Karthik, it could be a vacant look of sadness or maybe a divine intervention. We don't know.
Divine intervention, as in? I mean, it's more here the despondency and the gloom or the disappointment of having to, probably left with no choice but to shut this down.
Or it could also be Baba doing some, divine work to get Ali back. I really do not know. The next chapter would unfold.
Sure. You're a good Bollywood director.
I just looked it up. I'm sorry, I just looked it up about the vacancy on Google. The second, it's a noun. So the second one, it's the meaning is empty space. Yeah, empty space.
That's what's being said here.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So the eyes looked pretty empty.
Sure. So let's continue to chapter 11, the first wonderful escape. Any volunteers to read, or should I read again?
I can
Ashish,
read.
you want to read? Okay, Mahmoud, go ahead.
I can.
Maybe after this chapter, Ashish, you can read. Mahul, go ahead.
Chapter 11, the first wonderful escape. The letter of Ali that I have reproduced in the last chapter speaks volumes about the pangs of separation that the hero suffered during the first few days of his forced stay in Bombay. Yet a few words about the subsequent sufferings of Ali will not be out of place here. The most noteworthy point in this connection was the boy's wonderful and horrible abstinence. Abstinence means abstaining from food for 6 solid days. Of all the facts that I had gathered for this narrative, this was the only one that raised doubts in me about its exact correctness. To leave no possibility of a doubt, with the master's permission, I questioned Ali personally about it, on the 11th of October, when the boy calmly and in an unconcerned matter-of-fact tone corroborated my notes. In all these 6 days, this enigma, okay. In all these 6 days, this enigma of a boy had taken only 2 cups of tea, 1 egg, and 2 slices of bread. But there's a little story about how he took even this much nourishment. The egg, he said, was actually forced down his throat. Perhaps the idea that once his vowel was vegetarians and broken, he might get free of the inexplicable influence, quote unquote, influence of the master. Or perhaps it might have been administered as an antidote to cure him of the infidelity to his religion, since I know of Orthodox Muslims who are prejudiced enough to hold that merely the abstinence from animal food is a violation of Islam. While the 2 slices of bread were taken by Ali on the night he escaped, in the enthusiasm of the prospect of reaching the master again, and thus really speaking, Ali had remained only on 2 cups of tea during this memorable separation. To realize the full significance of these lines, one should at least remain without food just for 24 hours and then read them to get an idea as to what it means for a 15 years old healthy boy to go without food in such a way. In spite of my age, I have had the misfortune or good fortune of losing many a dear one, some of whom live evergreen in my memory for the mutual regard that we had amongst us. And I have also tasted some bitter disappointments at the hands of fate. But for all these, I never remember ever having gone without food for more than a few hours at the most. This is Ramjoo talking. Ali's father.
He sounds like me.
Yeah.
He sounds like me. I can't do long fasts.
Yeah, it's a body condition, I guess. Ali's father was naturally so exasperated and nonplussed with this inexplicable absence of the boy that once during these 6 days, in the presence of many people, he took a big knife in his hands and with a threatening gesture commanded Ali to partake of food, particularly meat and eggs. But besides his unusual mettle, Ali had the divine fire of love blazing merrily in his little bosom. What did he care for knives and swords? Kill me, I won't, was the only answer that this exceptionally brave boy gave out, unflinchingly to his angry father. At this, somebody was wise enough and had sufficient sense of mind gently but firmly take away the knife.
Your voice is trailing off. You'll have to read again. At this, somebody.
Okay. From where do you want me to read?
At this somebody.
Okay. And this somebody was wise enough and had sufficient presence of mind to gently but firmly took away the knife in the mid-air from the angry man's clasp. Okay. Something else, I think.
Is it just me, or everybody's having a problem with Mahu's voice?
No, there is some voice.
It's not so clear.
Yes,
Not
I had YouTube on without knowing, so now I took that off.
Okay.
How's my voice now?
Yeah, it's better. Please start again from at this somebody.
Sorry. Somebody was wise enough and had sufficient presence of mind to gently but firmly take away the knife in the mid-air from the angry man's clasp. But even this convincing proof of his son's great devotion and love for his ideal failed to open the eyes of the father to facts. The gentleman tried another way. One of the prominent leaders of his community and some elder relatives, go to next page, relatives and friends were brought in the shape of an awe-inspiring deputation to Ali. Some were fat, some were red, and some had bloodshot eyes and thundering voices in this group. The finer element amongst them first tried to bring round Ali to their way of thinking with many soft words and tempting offers, but they failed. A few amongst them then used threats, but without success. Then the trump card was played. One amongst them, who had remained at Mehrabad for some time, but through selfish motives had to beat a sorry retreat, was brought forward to spit out his spiteful bluster against the Meher Ashram and its august founder. Of course, considering Ali's education, age, and the then mental agitation, the boy could not reply point to point, surrounded as he was by so many pairs of unsympathetic eyes. Yet one of his replies, "The fellow is a liar." That's what Ali said. Authored with a conviction of inborn truth, simply took the breath out of all those present. A little bit further. In spite of these threats and temptations, not to speak of the various other allurements, in spite of these threats and temptations, not to speak of the various other allurements that the city like Bombay is full of, Ali remained firm and unshaken and proved to the hilt his divine love for the master. Besides being despised, laughed at, and subjected to much petty harassment by his relations, the 6 days of his life in Bombay during this period were no better than those of a prisoner. He was never left alone. Wherever he went or sat, there was somebody to watch over him. Even at night, the father kept a vigilant watch over the boy and kept awake when Ali slept. Or if he felt himself very sleepy, He used to lock the door of the room carefully from inside before retiring. Wow.
One second.
I guess the next person should read now because we have 15 minutes left. Whomever was
Sure,
wanted to.
Ashish, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Mahul.
Yeah. On the night of the first of March, Ali had a very wonderful dream. In this dream, Ali found himself on one of the platform of the Victoria Terminus, the terminal station of the GIP railway at Bombay. A train was ready there to steam out of the station, and a sign of Madras Mail was prominently displayed about it. At last, the right moment has arrived. Though the boy in the dream, and he began to run to board the train, but it was too late. Before he could get in, the train left the platform. Horrified at this failure, he simply dashed into a person that he dreamed as standing by, and then turned to see who he was. To his great surprise, Ali saw it was none other than Master himself. Stupefied, Ali stood like a statue and began to stare at the master, who told him, "Don't you know the Madras mail leaves at 10 o'clock?" And with this short but very suggestive sentence, the master disappeared. This time, Ali's horror in the dream knew no bounds. With half stifled scream, he sat up on yes, stifled scream. He sat up on his bed, only to realize that it was but a dream. Ever watchful father was at once by his side and inquired as to what the matter was, adding, "You have been very noisy and restless just now in sleep." But in spite of the great excitement that his realistic dream had caused to him, Ali did not lose his presence of mind and was wise enough not to make his father the wiser for the dream, and shook off the inquisitive old man with some suitable answer. Of course, he could not sleep after that dream. The master had clearly given him a hint in it, as if to say, "It's time for you to think of the return." Nay, even had shown him from which station, by what train, and at what time to start. From this moment, Ali became all the more restless and distracted in the dark hours of his separation. How to escape was the uppermost thought with him now. It was as if the master had added fuel to the fire of separation by conveying him hints to come back without providing an opportunity to do so. How am I to escape from the constant watch over me, not to speak of want of money? I haven't single pie on me. Such and the like thoughts began to race through his already reeling head. But the darkest hour is nearest the dawn has often been proved to be too true. The very evening, Ali got what he wanted. The master had also provided a practical opportunity. It so happened that on this particular evening, the 2nd of March, Ali's father found it necessary to go out on some business, and he left the boy in charge of his partner at one of his tea shops. Now, as luck would have it, his partner, after some time, felt like going for necessities. Who to leave in charge of the counter was the only question that affected him. Of course, there could be none better than the son of his partner for this purpose. Not knowing as to what was going on in Ali's mind since the morning, the gentleman asked the hero to take charge of the counter in his absence. Collect the money carefully, he shouted over his shoulder and was off. To think Ali would let go this God sent chance is to forget or underrate the terrible restlessness of his heart. The moment the poor, unsuspecting partner was out of sight, Ali divided his hand in the cash box and slipped all the loose coins that he could gather in his small fist into his coat pocket.
Yeah, Ali dived his hand in the cash box and slipped all the loose coins that he could gather in a small fist into his coat pocket.
Yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
Okay. Snatched a book lying there with the other hand and shot out of the shop like an arrow. He only took breath again when he had reached a fairly safe distance and then counted what he had been able to take from the cash box. It was about rupees 3 and Anad's 10. Anad's 10. Not much, but enough for my purpose, said Ali to himself. But he could not account for the book that he had in his hand and still holding the same. He proceeded. Did he come straight to the station? No. It was unlike Ali and his moral characteristics as described in the earlier chapters. The reader might have forgotten, but Ali did not. He remembered his lost comrade Muhammad Hussain. Ali knew he was running a grave risk, but the brave boy faced it. He went straight to Muhammad Hussain's place near the Crawford market and found him. Alas, like Ali, the former was also under a strict watch. Consequently, Muhammad Hussein's brother, would not leave. The two Ali to think rapidly and got an ingenious idea. Talking at random as if killing time, although for Ali every moment meant freedom or bondage, the boy took hold of a matchbox and, as if fidgeting foolishly, he scribbled out these words, I'm escaping coming. I'm escaping coming. Then through another successful rush, Ali managed to pass on the matchbox to Muhammad Hussain. The latter did not require to be told further. He had already guessed Ali's intentions and so glanced at the dramatic message at the first opportunity. But no came the answer through a half suppressed signal. Poor boy, he did not find it possible, or perhaps, who knows, he might not have liked to endanger Ali's own prospects of escape through delay. By this time, Muhammad Hussein's brother's suspicion was aroused a bit, and just as Ali was on the point of walking away, he asked, where are you off to, Ali? And fixed searching stare on the latter's face. But Ali again proved that he had plenty of pluck about him. He at once assumed an unconcerned look and blurted out, I'm going to my cousin's shop near Victoria Terminus and see, here is the book that I want to show him. Even that book had served some purpose, but instead of going to the cousin's shop, Ali came to booking office at the Victoria Terminus station and booked himself for Ahmednagar. Inexperienced as he was, Ali found it difficult to locate the platform from which the Madras mail left, and were it not for the dream, he would have certainly missed the train. However, inquiring about it, Ali reached the train, lest it might happen as it did in the dream last night. Ali was cautious not to lose moment in getting into the train, although there was a plenty of time on hand. Feeling insecure, he managed to enlist the sympathy of a fellow passenger and kept himself well under cover of the latter's luggage till the train had passed Kalyan, the first halt. Throughout that night, the night on which the master occupied Ali's seat in school, as described in the last chapter, Ali remained wide awake, looking through the open window of the onrushing train, heedless of the cold and cutting winds. It was as if his eager and longing eyes were trying to shoot through his yawning space to drop down on the lotus feet of the master.
Okay, I think the next is another chapter, so maybe we can stop here given we are just down to the last 5 minutes. But fascinating. So he's making his way to Nagar now. So there's a bit of suspense that is introduced into the reading for the next week.
Absolutely, Karthik.
He will be successful. He's going to be successful. This is his first escape. Yeah.
Okay. See, I have not read the book, so yeah. When you were commenting earlier, I figured, yeah, he must be able to make it. So looking forward to that.
Anybody, maybe we can talk about this a little bit based on, people who are here, their take on so far what we have read. What do you think the significance of Ali is or was for Meher Baba? Why Ali was so important for Meher Baba? Does anybody know?
We don't know at this time yet, but obviously the fact that he's significant is obvious. I mean, he's giving a lot of importance to this kid and the decisions and the choices that the kid makes. So obviously, because he's linking the continuation of the institution itself to the boys' continuation. But yeah, I don't know. What are the others? What do the others feel? And what do you feel, Mahu?
It's very hard to understand the master's work. I mean, if we really think that we know what Baba was doing, they're kidding ourselves. I can just guess that Ali was very monumental for Baba's work in Meher Ashram. If you read God Speaks or others, I don't even remember. I don't even remember where I read it. But for Sadhguru or perhaps for Avatar, they don't deal with feelings. Okay, so unlike what Ramjoo is describing, and he writes very descriptive in a very descriptive way. It's not that, well, Baba was sad, no doubt about it. But the question is, what was he sad about? Was he sad that the 15-year-old boy left? I think, I'm just guessing through what also we have read in Lord Meher. Ali was, did we read it here or we read it elsewhere? It was because of Ali that Meher Ashram was opened, just to begin with. I don't know whether I read it here or elsewhere, but not because of Ali and his form and Ali. Ali was playing a role for Meher Baba that was very monumental at that time. And Meher Baba was getting very important work done through him. And later on, of course, he accompanied Baba to the West and so forth, where everything was calmed down. But Baba could not afford to abandon that work at that time. So that was his sadness. His sadness was, and of course, what was he working for? He was working for us, for the humanity. God knows what he was doing. I mean, he was getting important work done, and and I think also it's very important to know Ali's father was also playing the role of opposition to master's work without knowing. You see, in the world of duality, Ali's father's role was necessary also for Baba's work. It's very, we can really understand it with the intellect. Just like Baba had Judases, right? Baba had 4 Judas. And those Judas he said, such and such Judas loves me. He loves me so much. And it was very necessary, their role also for Baba's work. So I think mostly for Ali was his role, but definitely he was also an advanced soul. Not everybody could absorb the love that Baba was bestowing on him. I mean, obviously it wouldn't be me or the guy next door or whatever. He was a very special. And I wonder where he's at now and what's happening to him.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, very intriguing book, to say the least. Very unusual and lovely to see these experiences in such great detail.
Yeah, and then if you actually notice, Ramjoo writes in a very his own style. He uses his own words, compared to, let's say, Don Stevens or anyway other editors or other writers. And when I was reading it with some American people, they did not like this kind of writing. They were so frustrated. I don't know why they were so frustrated. But he uses a lot of let's say words that needs searching. He doesn't write simple, but perhaps that's what Baba wanted, right? Why do we have to keep on Googling for some of these words that he has used, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yeah, there must be a purpose there too. Yeah. Any other thoughts from the others before we wrap up?
Yeah, see, every writer has got his own style of writing. So I think it's the message which is important. That
True.
And I think when Baba was sitting in the chair where Ali was sitting, there is some hidden or
deeper
purpose which is beyond our human mind.
True.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard. We shouldn't even try to understand it. But one thing also.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying also
go ahead.
That I was taken by some of these things that Baba says about the power of love. Baba says the problem of the universe and what they're encountering can be the only solution is love. So can you imagine how much power that love in a way that Baba talks, divine love. It was because of the love that Baba gave to Ali, he was able to encounter all those challenges and abuse. There was literally a lot of abuse he took from the father and surrounding. Yeah. That's another thing to consider.
Indeed. Lovely. So with that, I'll stop recording and we will get back in Sobs and Throbs a week from now, which